Morning, folks. So here is the second update I promised you for 2 videos in 2 days. Not doing too badly, are we? So this is the Bosnia project. I think this is update number 5, I think. So where are we? Right, so this is the second update number 5 of the Bosnia project. Update number 2 of the Warrior. So last time you saw it without her clothes on. I think she was near enough built, from what I can remember. Yeah, so that's where she was. So this is the kit I'm building, which is basically the only Warrior I think available in 1/35th scale at the minute. I know Hobby Boss are coming out with a whole load of Jackals, and I know Meng are coming out with a Coyote, I think, and then of course Tacom's recent releases of the 432s and the Bulldog. Hopefully by the end of this year we're going to have quite a few bit different modern British subjects, which is nice. I'm also hoping that hopefully perhaps Tacom or Meng even will bring out a Warrior that's got a full interior, perhaps, or even a partial interior will do. Especially with them doing the line of the Bradley Meng, Anyway, so the last update, like I said, she didn't have her clothes on, I don't think. So let's have a look where we are now. So we're here. She's now got her clothes on. The barrel keeps dropping because it's a metal barrel, so it's not, it's a bit heavy for the front of it. So she's got her decals on and an aftermarket decals. I've painted it, and she's just had a satin gloss coat to seal everything in. I have recently been adding the decals onto the kit, onto my builds without putting anything over the paintwork first, just to try things out, and I do quite like it. Although I do recommend perhaps using Tamiya paints for that type of thing, because they are very good and they're like bulletproof once they're dried, as long as you give them enough time to dry. So yeah, she's nice. First of all, I'm going to go straight to the balls ups, the messes I've made. I've put UN on the front. I did it myself using stencils, and I've made a cock up because the N is not a capital N. And I've also done the same on the back, on the stowage box. Again, I'm not all that bothered, to be fair. I'm a bit gutted because I did perhaps want to do this Bosnia project and have the potential to take it to a show if I wanted to. I made sure all the wheel arms, the suspension arms, were all level, and I've tried to go to work with the pre-shading first and everything like that. But never mind, you live and learn, don't you? So obviously it won't be going, but still, never mind. So let's have a look what we've done. So the decals I've used, let's start with the decals. I've used this set from Star Decals, and I've also used a couple of the kit decals. The kit decals are a pain in the ass. They're very, very thick. The aerial flag is a kit decal, which is nice. The problems I had were here on the stowage boxes, on the sides. The markings were, because the decals were quite thick, were a right bugger to put down. I used the set and soles to try and get them to go down. I've got the set, obviously, like this, which I put them down to bed the decal on first, and then the sole, which is in this water pen, to soften them and melt them to the fit to the indentations and that of the kit. it's got nothing to do with the sole being left in the pen for a while, because this is fresh sole at the time of putting it on. It did tend to work a little bit and melt them slightly. So then I tried to use this stuff I picked up from Telford last year, which is supposed to be the best decal stuff on the market. It's Daco Products decal setting strong version. They do 3. They do the strong, the medium, and then obviously the easier version. So I used that, and it still wouldn't go down. And then what I tend to do is if decals have been a bit of a pain, I get a little pin, something like this here, something nice and thin, and then I'll stab at the decal, especially round where the indentations are, which you'll see in a minute on the side armour panels. There's loads of bolts on there, and they were a nuisance. So I stabbed at it to put holes in it, and it did actually start to work. I came back the next morning, and they'd lifted slightly on bits that, funnily enough, I hadn't poked with the needle. So I decided to try and use with the needle and score along them, and then I used Walther's Solver set. Now that did start to work a little bit on them and make them adhere to the marks and indentations a bit better. However, still would go to that one first, because it is a lot stronger than that and does work a hell of a lot better than that, to be fair. However, that's the beauty, I suppose, of having different products. You can use them and they work so much. So that was the first problem with the decals. And they were the kit decals. So they were a bit of a problem. So I decided to try and use as many as I could out of this set. And they're beautiful. They really are. These Star Decal sets are really nice. And they're not too thick. They remind me very much of Cartograph decals. So they've bedded down very nicely, especially around the bolts on there, which was nice. Again, I used the pin and stabbed them a little bit and poked them a little bit in places, just to get them to bed down properly, and they did. But they've gone down lovely. The unit insignia has gone down well. And then, of course, the warning markers on the back have too. So yeah, they were nice. I'd definitely use those again, and I have got a couple of these Star Decal sets for various kits, and I do fully recommend them. You can get them a lot. I know that Hannants .co.uk in Britain are one of the main distributors, but also you can get them on Facebook. Stardecals.net, and you can also get them on I think they've got an eBay page. I'm not sure, I might be wrong about that part, but anyway, so yeah, I recommend them. So yeah, that was that. The paints I've used, first I wanted a sort of lighter primer than my usual go-to Steinel Res rebottled to UMP grey primer. I do love this primer, it's very good. It's very thick as well at times. But a good tip for you is, if you do use Steinel Res, which obviously this is, primer, obviously it is notorious for blocking your airbrush and not flowing very well. But what I tend to do is, which you'll probably see why the label's faded slightly, I get a sink full of hot water or a little tub, just normal tap water, run it till it's fairly hot, and then I just leave it in there, the whole bottle in there, for about 5 minutes till it's really warm. Give it a really good shake, and then I may even use the Badger paint stirrer to give it an even better stir. And then it sprays like water, but again, you have to be careful when you're sort of decanting it out into your airbrush. I always use one of these to get it out and put it into the airbrush. But be careful, because it does come out like water then, but it's really good because it's thin and it does flow through your brush a lot better. But I use this for starters, and I know how bad these Vallejo primers have for themselves. But with them being polyurethane, it's almost like they leave like a plastic sheet over the top of your model once you've primed it, and that's obviously the polyurethane. So, but I wanted, it's the only sort of light primer I've got other than white, and I didn't want to use white. So I used the grey first, and then on the darker bits underneath and that I used the UMP, the Steinelres primer. So that was that, and then I go in and pre-shade with this, because I was told that white is a notoriously bad colour to spray and paint, which it does. I have had bad problems. I've never painted a vehicle white before, but I've done white washes and figures and all that type of thing, and it is quite bad. So for the, what did I use? For the pre-shading, I just used the usual matte Tamiya XF1 flat black, and I turn the airbrush, the compressor right down to under 10 psi, and then spray it nice and slowly and do the shading lines. Underneath here, I just basically sprayed it all black because obviously it's dark, it's shadowed. You'll notice that I haven't painted the tyres on the rollers, because when we put the side skirts on, you can't technically see the rollers all that well. So that's why I haven't done that. And then I sort of went over the top of that with, what did I use? Oh no, that was it. I didn't go over anything else with white because there was no point. So it was light grey underneath. So then we came to the base colour. So the base colour I used originally was flat white, XF2. I let it dry overnight, and it was really, really dull. It didn't really cover very well at all, and I'd given it about 2 or 3 coats. But then, of course, the more coats you do, the more chance you've got of losing the pre-shading. So I started to have a bit of a think, and I was going to watch a few guys' videos and that, but there wasn't that many on YouTube of strictly how to paint a white vehicle with the criteria that I needed to hear and learn about. So what I thought was, I'll use a glossy white in places, which will show up a bit better and cover a bit better. So I used X2, Tamiya X2 white, and it sort of worked a lot better. So that was a lot better, and I found it a lot easier. So I did that. The detail painting I've picked out in places is all done with Vallejo model colour. The odd bit of painting is done with Migamo or model colour, model air, or AK. They're the ones I take. But me detail painting, I strictly try and stick to is model colour. I'll just love them. They're fantastic. So that's what we use for the detail painting, and then just for a bit of just trial and error, just over top of the odd grab handle or the lights here and there, I've added a bit of model colour. Let's see if I can find it. I'm sure I won't now. Ivory, which is 918. I just tried it over the top of the odd couple of things, which I might do and use. Just wanted to see what it looked like. I was going to do it underneath, but I wanted to use it for where I could see it in the light, so I just thought I'd give it a go. So we used that, and it does seem to, it looks okay, but it doesn't look great, so I don't think I'll use my chipping for that, use that colour for chipping. The fire extinguishers, which were on these vehicles notoriously green, I used the, did I use this, or did I use, yeah, I used Mick Ammo's Periscope Green, which is obviously the clear green, so I used that for them. And then the actual Periscope colours, I used the AK periscope blue, which I do like, and it was really good. Underneath, I've just tried to see what it was like before I added any type of gloss coat, so it was on the base colour with no coat. I've just used a filter just to see what it was like, which was the MIG ammo filter, which was grey for white, which is 1501. It's okay, but with it having no protection, it's sort of blotched in places. But to be fair, I sort of applied it and I didn't watch what I'd done afterwards. I left it to dry and it's gone a bit naff. But, you know, I shall use a bit of mud and dust to cover that up, which is the beauty of armour, of course. So that was that. What else have we done? Right, so that's those. The side skirts, we've used the same methods, but what I've done is I've tried to leave it a bit, darker down here where obviously the road wear and tear and dust would be. These decals are actually from the Star Decals, but because there's all the bolts, I really did struggle to cover, which it hasn't done that well. So what I'm going to do is I shall try and have a pick with the knife and get these bits up off the bolts, and I shall just chip slightly as well, and then just add bits of mud and dirt on there so it doesn't show up where you've picked the gloss coat off. I've added an insignia mark, a unique marking onto the sides, which the decal instructions does ask for, but off my own back I've just added the UK flag just on the sides there, just as a little bit of something different. Obviously, as you can see, I've sprayed the markings, the UN markings there, so that's black, flat black that I use for that. And that's about it for the side skirts. The wheels are just rubber black, which I always use for the tyres, XF85. And then what I usually do is I use MIG Ammo's rubber and tyres, which is 033, I think. And then I use that to chip the tyres and make them look worn in places where obviously the guide horns of the tracks would have caught them and all that type of thing. Because it's a lighter rubber and black, so it shows up a bit more. The tow cables are picture frame wire, which I tend to use, unless if the kit ones aren't great, which the kit ones are string. So I should use them string ones and tie the string up and use it as rope on the kit. These are ammo boxes, but there's that much. Let's get the instructions. There's that much stowage with this kit that you get a load of extra stowage for it, but I'm going to have to, and that's all the stowage you get. So, you get a load of oil cans and water cans, so, it's taking a lot of building for all that, so I shall build them up separate and paint it when I come to do the accessories and that for the diorama build, when I do the diorama bits. And then we go on to the tracks. On tracks, I always use XF84 dark iron for my tracks on any build. It doesn't matter if it's modern or Second World War, I always use dark iron because I think it's the most close to track colour I've ever seen, and it's brilliant. I just love it for that tracks. I just think they're great. A lot of research pictures I've got of the Warrior in that, it doesn't necessarily there doesn't seem to be all that silver and metal that show up on the tracks. There's just like the track pins, which these are rubber, the rubber band tracks. So what I tend to do is just dry brush usually and the guide horns and pick them out that way, and then I gloss over and then obviously weather over the top. But this time I've just added the dark iron and then that's it, and then sealed it. So I shall go through and just pick the odd bit of silver out here and there on them. But that's that. The wash I'm going to try the wash anyway for it. I've never actually used a proper old MiG Productions wash. I know they've just come out again, but this is one of the older ones, and it's going to be a warm white wash, and it's for white vehicles, and it's like a grey blue colour. Now, because of the pre-shading on the kit, I'm not sure if that'll show up all that well, so I'll just try a little bit underneath and where it can't be seen, see how it does after once it's dry. And then if not, I shall probably just go over with probably a brown wash or just a normal black wash, just to pick out the detail. I always seal my initial work in before I do any weathering and that with semi-gloss, Tamiya's semi-gloss clear, which is X35. But then if I do want a gloss colour, I always go to Tamiya for the first initial gloss coating. If I want a proper gloss coating first, I go to X22, which is clear, for the shiny one for perhaps aircraft or something. And then if I just want a sort of fairly flat colour at first, I'll use the flat clear, which is XF86. I know there's loads of different ones out there on the market which are great, but these are the ones I found work for me, and I found the bulletproof, so I always use them. And then for the final look, if I want it to be matte and a good solid matte colour and it to be dull, which a lot of armour obviously is, I always use Clear Coat Flat Alclad 2, which is ALC314 without fail. I use that as the final coat. Again, I got this from Telford last year. I've never used Alclad before, but I shall certainly try and get some more colours. And it was £5 for all that, which was great. I know it was Telford, but I met Dave, Mark, who was the guy who sold me this and said it was bulletproof, and he's a man of his word. It was brilliant. It really is. So that's that really. For metal colours and all that type of thing, I always tend to use the Humbrol colours, enamels, especially this one I've used for the side mirrors, which I've had to put on separate because I don't want to knock them off. I was struggling with model colour. It kept sort of drying, patchy and all that type of thing. And then as soon as I've used the Humbrol enamel metallic 191, it's just covered straight away and it's perfect. I was going to use tin foil and cut it out and stick it on, but I've gone with this time. But it really is good. I recommend that for your metal colours, and I use that for dry brushing as well, because it does the Humbrol enamels for dry brushing. The metal colours especially I tend to use because they're very good, and they don't dry so fast, so you've got time to work with them and that. What else was there? Obviously, like I said to you, the barrel, which I explained in the last video, is metal. It's an RB barrel, which is great, and it does add to detail because the kit one's not fantastic. But apart from that, guys, I think that's where we are for the update. I've bored you now for 23 minutes. So this will be it now for the Warrior update and the Bosnia build project update. As I'm now going to be taking a break from this project, and I'm going to be doing the 148 Tamiya Lancaster bomber for Martin Lamont's Bomber Command buddy build. It's on Facebook and it's on YouTube. You can do your videos on that, which I'm going to do, updates and pictures on the Facebook page. But to be honest, I'm quite glad, because it's really starting to make me weary a bit now and stuffing my mojo up a little bit, the project is. So I'm at a good place with this anyway. You know, both kits are built now. The figures of the Russian side are built. I just need to build the figure for the British side, which is Tank Commander, which is just going to be, and I may have a driver, I'm not too sure. And then that's it for that. The diorama is built. I just need to add the accessories on and add some greenery on the trees and bits. But apart from that, so we're in a fairly good place. So that will continue after I've done the Lancaster. So that's where we are, guys. So I'm sorry I've rabbited on, but a few of you asked for a warrior update to build in the Bosnia build, so that's where we are for that. So I hope you're all well, hope you'll stay safe, and may the force be with you.